Welcome to the Program Design Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Monique, teacher and curriculum writer turned program mentor and business strategist for coaches, educators, and online experts. Whether you're looking to create your first ever group coaching program or scale your current offer for more freedom, revenue, and consistent income, this is the podcast for you. Here you'll find practical strategies and encouragement mixed with a bit of manifestation and intuition to help you grow and design a program you absolutely love. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Program Design Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. I'm thrilled you're here. And in this episode, I'm going to be sharing 5 lessons I learned from doubling my revenue in 2025. So if you are new to me, welcome. My name is Lauren Monique, and I help coaches and mentors create and scale signature programs or group programs, depending upon which stage of business that you're in. And in this last year, I doubled my revenue, which is actually honestly slightly uncomfortable for me to even say on the podcast. It was funny. I was at an event this past week and we needed to share our wins. And that is the first win that came to me. And I almost didn't want to share it. I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to put it on a reel. Do I even really want to say that out loud? But it is something I'm very proud of. And I always encourage my clients to share their wins. So here I am, doubled my revenue in 2025. And I think it's really important to look back at your wins and lessons over the last year to be able to make really informed decisions as you move forward in your business in 2026. Because I don't have to tell you that there really isn't necessarily a very clear step-by-step of this is how you build your business. There's so much that you need to learn along the way. And so if you're not stopping to look back, you will likely inadvertently make the same mistakes and need to learn the same lessons again until you actually pay attention to do that. And I know it can be challenging to do that because it can feel so urgent, the things that you need to do right now. You need to write the emails, you need to write your newsletter, you need to get ready for a group call, you need to do your launch, whatever it is. And this can feel really long-term. Like if you think of that matrix of, is it like an urgent or important task? What I used to coach teachers on, oftentimes I found the teachers who were always running and feeling like they were reacting to their day, oftentimes were spending the majority of their day in urgent and important tasks. And one of the key ways that I helped teachers streamline their classroom and spend less time working was to get them into the important and non-urgent tasks. And that is what this is. So when you look back on your 2025, that doesn't feel urgent. It's like one of those important tasks that doesn't really have a deadline, but it will make such a big impact on how you look at 2026. And I don't know about you, but I know for me, when I hear from other business owners what their lessons were, what their takeaways were from the year, it really helps me solidify mine and gives me such insight. So that is why I am sharing with you my 5 lessons from 2025. And before we dive in, the way that I got to these lessons was an exercise that I find it's so simple, but really, really helpful that you can try after this episode if you want. And what it is I take a blank sheet of paper and on the top, I'll write what worked, next column, lesson. From there, I'll write what didn't work, and then the next column, lesson. And I literally just go through my calendar from January to December, and I look at, see what was I doing in January, February, March, what lessons did I learn? What didn't go right? What did work? And from there, I pull out a lesson from each one. And I start to notice the themes that come out. And these 5 lessons that I'm going to share with you today are the themes, the major themes that I noticed coming out from the things that worked and didn't work in 2025. So that's what we're going to dive into today. So the first is that identity shift that really guided my best decisions this year, long before the strategy actually made sense. And that was to trust my intuition. So I remember at one point, I had been thinking about hiring somebody new because one of my team members was going back to work in her full-time career. She works for me part-time. And so I needed to hire someone. And my husband actually told me, like, I found it in June. He was like, hire someone. And I'm like, just doesn't feel like the right time. It doesn't feel like the right time. And I just didn't. And it seemed completely illogical and probably like, why were you putting that off? But it just didn't feel like the right time to hire somebody new. And when I thought about who I wanted to hire next, I kind of thought like, maybe I want to hire a student. But what I really wanted to hire was I wanted to hire someone who wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, who wanted to have some time outside her time with her kids to work in the business. Because I know part of the reason I started my business was so that I could spend more time with my kids at home when they were little. And I really loved that idea of someone being able to spend time with her kids at home, but also support me in a way that was flexible. And I just had this gut feeling like that was for me. And I mean, a lot of times you'll hear business owners recommend like hiring overseas or hiring someone who is a specific to, a specific task in your business but for some reason that just really felt like the right thing for me. And I decided in October to post about who I was going to hire. And I just kind of followed my gut on where I wanted to go, where I wanted to post it, who I was going to hire, who should I interview. And I remember it came down to 2 candidates. One was a recent grad. She was fantastic. And one was a stay-at-home mom. And I just had this gut feeling from the moment that I spoke to the stay-at-home mom that she was going to be a fantastic addition to our team. And she absolutely is. But it's funny, I just had this sense, this grounded sense as soon as I talked to her. She has this energy of like nothing can shake her. She's very unflappable, very calm, just a really grounded, calm, dependable energy. And I just had this gut feeling that she was going to have the skills that would be a compliment for me. And even though there were other people who looked good on paper, I'm like, she's just the one. She's just it. And she has been a fantastic hire in the business. And I am so grateful for everything that she does on a regular basis. She sees things that I don't notice. She takes initiative. She pays attention to things. She's super organized. So her role in the business is client success. So a lot of the work behind the scenes, like making sure my clients have what they need, is all her. And also anyone who is coming to our workshops and learning from me, she also helps me manage that. So it's really client facing and organizing. And she has been so fantastic at it. And I think sometimes, if you're going to hire, it can feel like a little bit of a leap of faith. And that's why I find this is one example of just I just trusted my intuition. I just feel like she's the right fit for me. And I didn't have necessarily a lot to go on for that, but I obviously went slow and gave her smaller projects before I really brought her in. But I just had a really strong gut feeling about it. And that is exactly what happened. And I can see throughout 2025, there were things that I did listen to my gut and didn't. And it was the ones that I listened to my intuition that came up so clearly that even though it's not always the thing that you see clearly on paper, listening to your intuition is so huge in your business. And I know sometimes when I share people ask me how I make decisions, because I make decisions really quickly, to be honest. And I really trust myself now. Sometimes people ask me how do you trust your intuition? How do you know it's intuition? And that's a whole other podcast episode. But one of the simplest ways that I can tell you that I learned to trust my intuition is I looked back at decisions when I was I just had a gut feeling and I ignored my gut feeling. Where did that feeling come up? So if you're listening and you're wondering, how do I listen to my intuition? Look back in your decision making and think back to a time where you're oh, I knew that was the wrong call, or I didn't trust my gut, or whatever it is. And think about, how did you feel that in your body? So for me, it's this deep knowing that doesn't necessarily come from any kind of logical source, or I feel it in my fingers. And this is going to sound so crazy, but bear with me, because it could give you a sense of what you could do to listen to yours. So I'll sit down in my kitchen, and I've done this enough times that I can test the energy I feel in my fingers. And my gosh, my husband's going to listen to this episode. I probably never told him that. He's such an atheist. He's probably going to be oh my gosh, my wife. But anyway, bear with me. If you are as intuitive and into that stuff as me, you'll be right on with me. But what I do is I'll sit down in my kitchen and I'll sit cross-legged, feel grounded, centered. When I can feel calm, I can feel this energy in my fingers. And when I feel it moving back and forth in my fingers, that's a no. And when I can feel it like tingling out of my fingers, it's a yes. So like I will like double check this and I'll say like, and you can try this even if you want, like you center yourself, calm yourself down and noticing like the tingles in you feel in your fingers, and ask yourself a question that you know the answer to. Like, my name is Lauren. I have 2 boys, whatever. And I will feel what a right answer feels like in my fingers. And so for me, that feels like the energy is going out and I feel this tingling sensation on the outside of my fingers. And then when it's not true, I'll feel this like kind of like moving back and forth and it doesn't go out the tips of my fingers. And so if ever I'm wondering what the intuitive like nudge is of which way I want to go, I can pay attention to that feeling and I get a strong sense of which way I should go. But it needs to be like when I'm in this calm, grounded state, no nervousness, no excitement, no anger. Like I just need to be really calm and grounded, and then I can tap in to my intuition. So that has been, I'm looking over my notes now, that has been a massive theme for me this year is trust your intuition, self-trust, rather than like that idea of outsourcing your decisions. I have had a coach for most of the year, which was so helpful for me. And I have my peer mastermind, whom I love. But ultimately, like I really trust my own decisions now, which has made such an impact. And I think it's part of the reason that I was able to double my revenue this year. Because I can trust my intuition. So that is the first lesson from 2025, trust your intuition. The second one is about the finances. So we're going to go right into like the logical side. And at the beginning of the year, I started making a lot more money, but my profit was still just as low as it was before. And I think at the time I had been doing money mindset work for a while. So I have been looking at my money, but I really wasn't fully aware necessarily of where it was going. So I started tracking my expenses, my investments and expenses along with my revenue. And that was right at the beginning of the year. And I could notice a trend that even though I made more money, I also had this same amount of profit. And so I decided to start really measuring that and paying attention and planning my months, my revenue months for profit and not just revenue. And I don't know if it's really like maybe it's the online world that there's such a focus on revenue and not on profit. It's kind of like this, like it's a little bit like, I don't think people are quite as clear on what they make in their profit versus their revenue. And I mean, I can understand that. Personally, I don't like to share numbers. Maybe one day that will change. I know a lot of people are really transparent with their numbers, which I appreciate. I'm not really at the place where I want to share numbers at this point, but I share numbers with my clients. One day maybe I might share it on the podcast, but I double my revenue. But I think profit is just something that maybe feels closer, more personal. People don't share it as much. And there's really this emphasis on the online world about how much revenue people are making. So for me, one of the big lessons of 2025 is protecting my profit and also making decisions based on my profit. So my natural way, some of my friends call me a true entrepreneur, is I will take risks. Like I'll take risks and invest money or take on a new coach or whatever. And so now I'm a little bit more cautious because I want to maintain a certain level of profit in my business before I go on to take the next leap in something. So that's the second lesson for me was focus on profit, not just revenue. And now I must say I had the most profitable month ever by far in, it was October. So actually it was a good month, the same month that I hired my wonderful new client success manager. It definitely worked. It's still something that I'm working towards, creating new systems to really focus on that profitability. So we have that consistency in the business, but that is my second lesson, focus on profit, not just revenue. The next idea is a boundary I notice I tend to let go of. And it's not that I let go of it. It's like a natural tendency I think I have, and it just manifests itself in different ways. And I know if you're anything like me, you likely have this one too, because most clients that I get in my world that come into my world are very, very kind, very giving people, really care about supporting other people. And so this one might come up for you as well. So there is this saying, new level, new devil, right? You've probably heard of it. I think it's David Neagle maybe who coined that. But one of my mentors, who was actually on the podcast a few months ago, Denise Duffield Thomas, she'll share the idea of new level, old devil. So every time you hit a new level, people say there's new challenges, which there are, but also your tendencies might manifest in different ways. And this is what I noticed myself doing this year. So the boundary that I tend to let go of, it's not a bad thing. I just have to keep it in check. I tend to over deliver at my own expense sometimes. And I think it comes from, I think it's just who I am. But also because I trained, like I was going to be a counselor. I did a lot of work around like empathetic listening. I took a lot of courses on that. I trained to help people at the crisis center. I worked there for a number of years. I was a youth worker. I was a teacher. Like I've done a lot in the helping field. And so my natural way is to always listen and give more to others, which is a wonderful quality. And my clients have it too. It's just you have to watch that you are also thinking about what the business needs because the business is there to support you. And if you're not paying attention to what the business needs and you're always paying attention to what other people need, your business might not be there to support you. So here's what this looked like in past years and what it's looked like now in my business. So in the past, what it's looked like is I've been afraid to charge more money. I don't think I ever had a problem charging money. It's just I charged really, really low rates. For a long time, I didn't feel like confident charging a higher level. So I was really over delivering and undercharging for a long time in my business. Then this year, I do a lot of sales calls. I do a lot of discovery calls. So if you find me through an ad, you might come to a training of mine and then look into working with me and you might do a one-on-one call with me. That's my favorite way to bring people in because then I can absolutely stand behind my guarantee and say, yes, I know I can support you. I know you're a right fit for my programs and I can invite you in, right? I don't like having my satisfaction guarantee without having actually spoken to you and know that like, I know where you're at in your business. I know where you like what you need, what your strengths are and all that stuff. And I know that I can support you. So I like to have sales calls. The issue, and it's not so much of an issue. So this is kind of a two-parter. So my lesson is that I need to protect my time and let it be a season. So here's what this looks like. Is at the beginning of the year, I was doing a lot of discovery calls and sales calls after trainings or even before trainings. And chatting with people who might be a fit for my program, might not be. And I got a lot of people who were not right for my program. And that was fine for a season because I was just learning and learning and learning. I didn't have a strong close rate, not because I don't know how to sell. I'm actually quite good at selling, to be honest. I've practiced quite a lot and I teach my clients how to sell their programs and my strategies work. It's not that I can't sell, it's that I was getting the wrong people on the phone. But instead of letting them go, my natural way is to listen empathetically. And I will listen and listen and listen and like mirror back and support you. And it will take up, and I will help you in your business and it won't be supporting my business. So it's at my expense. So I would have a lot of these calls that led nowhere, that person felt really supported during that call and it got me nowhere. And it works for a season because I learned a lot about what kind of person I needed to call in, what my messaging needed to look like, what my funnel needed to look like. And I've honed in. And the last time I looked at my data, I think my close rate's around 80 to 90% now. So it wasn't a bad thing. It's just that it needed to be in a season before it was like, okay, I need to create that boundary again and protect my time. At one point, I would get on the phone with most people who wanted to talk to me. Now I have way more stringent requirements. So you need to have come to a training of mine. You need to have known what the program is and what the offer looks like before people come to talk to me. So the people who come to talk to me already know, they're in my world. They know what I stand for, my values, how I can support you, all of that stuff. And so our calls are a lot more focused, right? And so that's how it showed up there. And then I was like, okay, I learned from that. That was a season. Now I'm creating more boundaries around my time. And I don't get on the phone with just anybody. But what I've noticed it's evolved into now is I will tend to over deliver in my programs. And I think I love the idea of under promise, over deliver. That is one of the very few takeaways that I remember from business school. And I love to do that, but I have to watch so that I keep it in check, that I don't do too many extra trainings when people say, oh, I need this or I need that. too many extra supports. Like I have to watch that I keep it in check. And so it still feels like it's an energetic match for me. And so what I mean by that is if you're in my programs, you'll likely have heard of this. When I talk about pricing, I talk about it being an energetic match. Does it feel like a strong energetic exchange for the amount of that people are paying you for what you're giving them? If it can feel out of balance, usually, most of my clients, I draw on people like me, undercharge and give so much. And then you can tend to feel, not always, but sometimes you can feel a bit resentful, or you can feel off, or like you're giving too much, or you're not making the money you need to support yourself and your business, right? And so it needs to be an energetic exchange, a strong, clear, energetic exchange. And so that's the thing that I'm reminding myself of now. Like it was helpful to do those extra trainings because I think we needed it as I was building out this new offer. But I'm also going to be aware, okay, that was a season. And now I'm pulling back. So I'm not over delivering and undercharging again, because that's something that I can fall into. And so the lesson that I got from this is protect your time and let it be a season. So it's kind of like you can do it for a certain amount of time, get the lessons you need, and then move forward. And if you're listening to this podcast episode, this could be a big one for you because I know the types of people who tend to listen to my podcast generally are like that as well and are very, very giving people. So that was my third lesson, protect your time and let it be a season. My fourth lesson was I needed to stop leaving things up to chance in my business. Stop leaving things up to chance in my business. So I think, and I see my clients doing this too, and it's a shift. It took me a while to really understand this, is that I would set something in motion and I would hope that it would work. Like, I hope this works, rather than saying, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make things happen. So like, for example, with a launch, like when I decided to do pilot program design, I'd been thinking about it for a little while. And when I decided to put it in motion, I made it happen in 3 weeks. But that's partially because I have the project plans for creating new programs. I've created multiple new programs. I have people in place to help me in the business to do that. I teach people how to create programs on a regular basis. Like that is my wheelhouse. I know how to do that. But I said I wanted to get 10 people in the door. And instead of saying, I hope I get 10 people, or I hope I get 5 people, or I hope I get 20 people, I was like, no, I am getting 10 people in this door. And I ended up with more people who are on a wait list who are now joining my next cohort. But I said, like, this is what I am creating. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do what it takes to make it happen. And I think that's the energy, that it's a shift that you need to make when you become an entrepreneur that can feel a little bit tricky. Is I think most of us, we kind of say like, okay, I'm going to try this thing and we'll see if it works. But you need to make things work. You need to decide like, I'm going to make this funnel or this sales strategy or this marketing campaign or whatever it is that you're working on work. And I'm going to tweak it until it does. And I'm going to have that intent. Like that's the intention that I'm creating. It's not like we'll see how it goes. Like, no, this is happening. This is what I'm doing. It's a really different energy when you're creating something. And so that was my fourth lesson, is to make things happen. Similarly, and this is my last lesson that I wanted to share with you, is oftentimes I think I was sometimes like in my marketing, I was guessing in the past. And I didn't really realize that there was another way to be. So what I would do is, so for example, I do a lot of trainings and workshops, right? And I have a very specific way that I teach people how to run their trainings. It's not like you just take a piece of your course and then that you think people will like, and then you put it in your training and hope people will buy your program. No. There is a very strategic way that I teach people how to sell in a presentation or in a training. And it's had my clients go from like having one person buy in their last round to having 8 people buy or having 20 people buy. Like it really makes a big difference in how you strategically create your content for your training. So it's valuable and it's also building to demand for your program. But I have this way of teaching it, right? And part of it is really knowing your clients inside and out. And what I would do is I would look back on client notes. I would listen to what people were saying, and then I would create my content from there. But there was a certain degree of guessing. I think this will resonate with them. When I was in that place, this would have resonated with me. Or I would speak to people in my industry like, would this resonate with you? Yes, no, whatever. There's a certain amount of guessing that I was doing. And then it finally hit me like, why am I guessing? Like I should know that this is going to work. So that was my 5th lesson of 2025. And this came up a lot. Guess less, know more. Guess less, know more. So to stop myself from guessing in this particular example, I stopped looking back at client notes and guessing what was coming up for them that I needed to include in my workshops. And instead, I just asked them the questions that I needed to ask to know about and creating the structure for my trainings. And then I put it into my trainings. And the wild thing is the next time I ran a workshop, I had people ask me like, oh my gosh, how are you in my head? How did you get this degree of specificity, this messaging? Like, how did you get this messaging? This is exactly what I needed. Because I even put the things that I learned, I put it in my ad. And people were commenting about how much my ad resonated with them and how much they liked it. But you know how I knew that they would like that is because I asked people who were my clients when I had my market research calls with them. And I was like, what was the thing that hit you the most? Like, what was the most memorable thing that you learned from me in my trainings when you first joined? Across the board, people talked about mini result milestones. So mini result milestones are the stepping stones that lead your clients to the final result, right? They're like, what are the mini results that people are going to get along the way that lead them to the final result? So they have a path to move forward, and you have a way of explaining what it is that you do to help your clients and for them to decide that they want to work with you, right? It's like it's your whole process, like simplified down for what you to go to explain it to someone who's a potential client. People unanimously said mini result milestones, mini result milestones, mini result milestones. And so when I went to refine my trainings, I made sure to have content around mini result milestones, but I even took it a step further and put it in my ads. And people were like, oh my gosh, your ads resonated with me. I loved your ad. I love that idea. I love that concept. And I wasn't guessing that ad was going to do well. I was like, I know that's the messaging that my people need to hear, because people have literally told me. Like, I don't have to guess what to put in my trainings anymore. I know what to put in, because yes, I have my framework that I'll teach you, like if you're in my programs, how to actually do this so that you can get better sales, but also how to actually work within that framework and know what to put in it. Like, don't guess. Just ask your people. That is my intention going into 2026, is in multiple ways. Like when I'm planning out for profitability, when I'm planning out my launches, when I'm looking at my messaging, when I'm running my business, I'm not going to guess as much. And I know this maybe sounds counterintuitive because it's against like kind of counter to what I said about intuition at the beginning of the episode. But when I'm trying something new, I want to listen into my intuition. But then as I repeat things, I want to know with certainty that this is what we're creating. The more certainty you can create in your business, the better, right? Because there's so many variables when you're an entrepreneur and you're working in your own business, right? So my last lesson is to guess less. A lot of that has to do with market research, really quality market research, not just the market research you maybe did when you first started, but ongoing market research to really know your person so that you can guess less and know more. So let's recap the 5 main lessons that I learned in 2025 to help me double my revenue. Before I do, I wanted to invite you, if this resonates with you and you do have a program that you want to grow in 2025 and you like this kind of discussion, you like this kind of way of thinking, you could be a really good fit for Signature Program Design, which is my main program that helps you refine and scale a signature program, not just in your marketing, but also in the way that you're actually delivering it. So it's a really quality experience, your curriculum, all of that kind of stuff. If you've been following me along for a while and you really liked the conversation that we had today, I would love to chat a little bit more about Signature Program Design with you. So you can send me a message on Instagram with the word signature, and we can chat about it and see if it could be a good fit for you in 2026. So let's recap. We talked about the identity shift that really guided my best decisions, and that was about trusting my intuition. The next big idea that we looked at was focus on profit, not just revenue. The next idea was there was 2 points, 2 sides to it. So protect your time and let it be a season. So be aware of what you need in a season, and then it might need to shift so that you're protecting your time and your resources in your business. The next big idea we said was making things happen. Don't just leave things up into chance. Make things happen and have that intention before you go in to create something in your business. And then the last big idea was guess less, know more. So I trust that this was helpful for you. If you found it helpful, relevant, I would love to hear from you. You can leave me a review on iTunes or your podcast app of choice, or you can send me a message on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And again, if you would like to hear more about what we do in Signature Program Design and if it could be a good fit for you, send me a message on Instagram, and I will see you on the next episode of the Program Design Podcast.